Today's video tells you everything about the power of combining the power of our FNC DataGrid with our recently released FilterView control. The FilterView control is a control that allows you to have a user interface, an intuitive to use user interface that people know from websites like booking.com, bol.com, Coolblue and so many more. A user interface for specifying different filter conditions that could apply in an intuitive and logical way. So we have the filter view on one side, a component that you can use and mix with many other components, but here we want to focus on how you can use it together with our FNC data grids. And we will show you in this filter view how you can use it with different data types, how you can also use custom controls for your filter actions, and also how you can set up your own customizable filter actions, and everything will go almost codeless with interfacing to the FNC data grids. Come with me in the Delphi IDE where I show you an example of combining this power of the data grid with the filter view. So here we are in our Delphi 13, in this case, IDE, where we have the data grid. Here on the right side and on the left side we have the filter view control, and in the filter view we have a first pane, and that is a pane to set a filter condition. If we have a look at the details of this pane, you can see that here the filter field name is named with name, and that means that that is a filter condition for the name column that you can also see here in the grid, the name column in the data grid. We have another item here in our filter view, which is a container, and it's in a control container, and a control container is used to host several other controls, custom controls, and we will use that container to host, in this case, 4 different buttons, and from these four different buttons we will control the filter actions that need to happen from there. And then we also added a custom control that is a calendar control. So maybe first of all let's have a look at how this behaves before inspecting how it was achieved in code. The result can be seen in this application when I run it. Here it is filtered with, it is filled with some random data, and here you can see, for example, when I add the condition that text needs to start with DAV, then you see all the Davids in this name list appear filtered in the data grid. We can change this when it is, for example, not empty, a simple condition where we get all rows for the grid, and filter instead on the status of the people in this list. And here we can see various statuses when I click this status button. And of course you can also combine different filters. Let's have a look at filtering on the status and set it to abroad. And now when I change the date, for example, let's change the year, and let's quickly have a look. 21 is a pretty good date. You can see here that only the rows are preserved when the joined date is earlier than January 13, 2021. So that's the result that you can achieve. Now let's have a look at how we could achieve that. First one is very simple. That is a value editor added to the filter view that automatically or almost runs by itself. We add it to the filter view, and via the filter expression we specify what it should be done. And what should be done is filtering on the column name, or have a filter condition on the field name specified, and we specify that it is a text field, so the common filter actions applicable to text should appear here in this value editor. Here is a special one that is a control container that contains several buttons. And when I go and inspect what happens when I click this button, let's go to the implementation section, and you can see here that this method is called with the index of the button triggered. And what I do here is, depending on the index, I set the value of the filter expression to the different possibilities for the status, being in the office, flight, abroad, off, or on leave. And you can see here that for this control container, the filter field name is set to status because it applies to the column status in our data grid. And it is also a text field, so we set the field type to FDT text. And the expression operator, that is the filtering performs a check if the value is equal, the filter value is equal to the actual value in the column. So that is what is responsible for providing or performing the filtering on the status column. And lastly, we also have this calendar, the FNC calendar, that is dropped on the filter view. And let's have a look of how this was set up. I first need to go here in the initialization. So when the application is initialized, when the form is opened, here we can see that we call add custom item control to the filter view. And what we do is we pass the control itself. We also pass the date of that calendar control. And here the third parameter is the parameter that specifies on what column in our grid this filter operation should be performed. And it concerns a field type that is of the type date, and the filter operation that we perform for that specific control in the filter view is a smaller than or equal operation. Now, when the date changes in our FNC date picker, this triggers the event here on select date. And when I go and inspect the implementation of that event handler, you can see that it calls the filter view update custom item control value, and it updates this item in the filter view that is identified by the instance of this control in the filter view. And so this is what it is identified by, and the value for that filter item is set to the date that was selected in that FNC date picker control. Now, whenever something in the filter values changes, that triggers at filter view an event. So let's have a look at the filter view event handlers. That is the filter text changed event handler. And from there we call update filter. What is update filter doing? So it grabs the generated filter text from the filter view, and then it will perform or apply this filter text to the data grid. It does this by clearing any possible previous filter text that was set, setting the new text of the data grid filter builder filter text with the new generated filter text value, and when this has been set, apply that filter on the data grid. Also important to notice that this filter specification that specifies the format of our filter text that is generated, that is set in the filter view control, and it is set with the property filter format type. And here you can see it is set to universal filter expressions. This is the kind of expression that we use thoroughly our FNC controls, and that is also used in our FNC data grid. But you can also have the filter view generate filter conditions that match or correspond to the expected filter format for a dataset control. So you can choose that. You can also specify that it should use a custom format for your filter. But here, as the DataGrid supports or uses the universal filter expression that the FilterView generates, we can use that to directly, with a single line assignment of that filter text, have the filter apply on our DataGrid. You've also seen that when I perform the filter operation, I can do it once again to make that clear. So here's the application filled with some random data, and here I can, for example, say it should contain Aura, and then we see all the entries with Laura. You can see that the filter operation that the DataGrid performs is a hide row operation. So all rows that do not match the filter condition specified here, these rows are hidden. Now the grid has one more interesting technique for doing something different than hiding the filter rows, and that is actually configured here by this property. So we have on our DataGrid options filtering actions where we can specify, instead of the hide row action, we can apply appearance as an action select here. What does that mean? That means that the appearance of the row, depending on whether it matches the filter or not, the appearance will be set according to what we have defined in our FNC DataGrid filter match layout. So that is the layout that should be applied to all rows matching our filter condition. And we also have a filter inverse match layout. That is the layout for the rows that do not match the filter. So when we change this here now, this filter option for the action that is performed to control the appearance, let's see the effect when I run this application. And now you can see that at first everything matches. There is no filtering, so all the rows in our DataGrid are matching. When I select now this condition on leave, you see that only the rows that have a status on leave are marked in green, and so that is the behavior that the filtering is causing. So you can choose what happens in the grid depending on your selection, how it visualizes the effect of filtering in our DataGrid. So with that, I think we show you how extremely powerful that combination of the FilterView and our DataGrid is, how you can, with a single line, generate the filter text that is consumed, used by our FNC DataGrid, and that can then be applied to perform the actual filtering in the grid. All of this can be explored yourself. This demo is included in the FNC UI Pack that contains both the FNC DataGrid and our FNC FilterView. So have a look at our FNC UI Pack. You can download a fully functional trial version from our website and explore these things yourself. If you have in the process any questions, of course, do not hesitate to contact our support team. If you liked this video, this content, don't forget to like here below the video. And if you want to be informed about more content around our FNC or any other TMS control, don't forget to subscribe on the subscribe button also below this video. See you in a next video. Thanks for watching.